please thank her for I love my baby butt because
That's
it
so
really
nice.
helped me get through my first couple of months. One mom in particular said it really helped her with her insecurity about breastfeeding and pumping because Jenna and I have talked, we both had different journeys with breastfeeding, but it's real. You think it's the most natural thing in the world. Maybe that's the first thing we should talk about.
Yes.
Should be the most natural, easy thing, the baby to latch and it just happens. But it's a very complicated
and no one told me about it. And like I said before, it's also because I wasn't in it, so I wasn't necessarily interested in hearing about it. But I think it is the job of your OB to talk to you about it and learn a little bit more about it before you actually start doing it. I mean, I don't know why. Like, why isn't a doctor talking to us about this stuff?
About it?
Right. Yeah. All of a sudden, you have the baby.
Everywhere.
Yes, you have the baby, and all of a sudden, these nurses are just like shoving the baby on your boob 24/7, and you're like, wait a second, I don't even know if I want to do this or how to do this, how often I should be doing this. Like, you're in that hospital and you're kind of just doing whatever they're telling you to do.
And do the lactation nurses in all hospitals? I don't know, but I love Cedars. I've delivered both my babies there, and all the nurses were wonderful, but the lactation specialists, they only come, it feels like, at 4 or 5 in the morning.
Right.
And they were
when
so
you're already
rough.
exhausted.
You're so exhausted. You just gave birth. They were just so rough with me. And it's such an intimate, gentle, you need to be so much more like sensitive to new moms with this.
Totally. I think that someone has to figure out a better way to get the lactation consultants in, spend the time with you, check up on you more than once while you're in the hospital. But for me,
I was going to say, I'm having a flashback now of them wheeling in a pump and being like, here you go. And it looked like a freaking robotic thing with buttons.
Like
and
an alien.
An alien.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know how to use this. And they just left. And I remember trying to put the parts together. I'm like, why isn't someone sitting here and putting it on my boobs and telling me this button is to actually get the milk out. This one is to drip it or whatever.
All the different levels, the different suction. There's so much that you end up figuring out on your own. Yeah. It's really hard. So for me, unfortunately, the nurse just promoted the baby just being on my boob at all times. And because of that, my nipples just could not handle it. It was the most excruciating pain I had ever experienced in my life. So I got home and it was time to feed the baby and I couldn't do it. And I broke down in tears and I was like, I cannot do this. This is like hell for me. So I went to the pharmacy and I got a pack of Similac. And I had a baby nurse at the time and she said, just go get that and let's give him that until we can set up your pump and maybe the pump is going to be better for you. So the next day I set up my pump, somehow figured it out on my own. Can't even remember how I did, but
YouTube.
Figured it out. And the pump ended up being a lot easier for me to use. It was definitely less painful, but I still felt so guilty about him not latching. I took him to the doctor. They told him he had that frenulum thing. Yeah, the tongue tie. I went as far as getting that thing clipped. It was
God, I did too.
I did it with both my boys and it killed me.
Oh my God. It was so traumatizing. I couldn't believe that I did it. And then I continued to try to breastfeed and it was still awful. And so then I felt even more guilty because I was like, I went and got the frenulum clipped, but it's still terrible.
And then you're like, I just
through
put
all
him
this
through all
torture
this.
for nothing. And then I just decided, you know what, Whitney, you want to give him the breast milk, fine. Let's just exclusively pump. If the pump is working for you and it's not as painful, then skip trying to latch, and so I exclusively pumped for 6 months.
Wow.
But got mastitis 3 times. After the first time was like, okay, if I get this one more time, I'm stopping. Got it a second time, was like, okay, I'm not really ready to stop. If I get this a third time, I'm stopping. Finally, after the third time, I was like, I'm torturing myself. It just so happened to be around New Year's, and I was like, okay, fresh start, new beginning. Let's get wasted on New Year's. Not worry about it. And
good timing.
And I was done after 6 months, and I had never felt lighter. I felt like a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders.